This is the sweet sound of success with Sue Wilhite, Profit Attraction Master. For more than 3 decades, Dr. Michael Gross has been on a spiritual path as an intuitive, healer, spiritual counselor, and teacher. Through the guidance of spirit, Michael has assisted others in their personal quest for self-empowerment, helping them to create the life they have long sought to achieve. His personal goal is to attain 1% of the world's population to embrace the vibration, frequency, and energy of unconditional love. Michael Gross's missions and goals are for everyone to realize that as they embrace the energy and vibration of unconditional love, this planet will once again become the original Garden of Eden. Dr. Gross hosts an hour-long call on Tuesday evenings at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time, where he answers all spiritual self-empowerment questions as well as an inspiring message. In addition, he hosts a once-a-month live healing conference, Call of Love, for the mass consciousness on this planet. Dr. Michael Gross's motto is, "You are unlimited." Welcome, Dr. Michael Gross. I am so thrilled that you are on my show today.
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored to be here. And I thank you for the good work you're doing and helping everybody to understand the message they want to deliver. So I appreciate it.
Yes, wonderful. And you have a fantastic message as well. And I'm sure we're going to get to hear how that came to you and how you evolved, because as some of my viewers know, but some may not, this show is structured around the hero's journey from Joseph Campbell. And in fact, my informal subtitle is The Hero's Journey for the Entrepreneur's Soul. And so we're going to be following some of those steps in the hero's journey, in particular, the ordinary beginning, which no entrepreneur has an ordinary beginning. Just give that one away right now. The call to action, what brought you into the entrepreneurial journey or onto your path? What was it that got you going? And of course, there are challenges and things to overcome and big hairy monsters to go after and either make into allies, which is our next section, or to banish to another dimension. And as I mentioned, allies, mentors, guides, those folks who got you going or kept you going on your journey. And finally, the return home. How do you as an entrepreneur deal with those folks who don't get it about being an entrepreneur? Because as I said many times on this show, once you accept that first payment for what it is that you do, once you have had your message or your product or your service accepted by someone else as having value, it changes you. And sometimes the folks at home just don't understand. So, Dr. Michael Gross, what was your ordinary beginning?
Well, thank you very much. As you know, I'm an intuitive, but I would have dreams and things that were happening, and I just took it for granted. But one of the shocking things was in high school, I believe I was a senior, and they had the hot cheerleader, and I wanted to date her, so I sauntered up. Here I am, I'm going to ask her for a date. Took a lot of gumption to do this.
Right.
And the words out of my mouth were, "You're pregnant." And she turned around and slapped me, and I went, "Oh my God, where did that come from?" And by the way, she was pregnant.
Oh,
So,
but this is not how to get a date.
on how to win friends and influence people. You're absolutely right. So I went, where did that come from?
Yeah.
So I kind of buried that and went on with my education and kept going on and on. And I decided that I wanted to become a business person, an entrepreneur. So after going to college and wanted to become an accountant, and my father called it a CPA, constant pain in the ass. So that was his acronym. And finally, I quit and went to work for the shoe industry. And I was in the manufacturing at the factory level, and then worked my way up. Then I went to the retail level. I was buying shoes for leased apartments, shoes at retail anywhere from $300 to $1,000, and I ran 40 of them. And then from there, I went to work for a wholesale shoe company and worked for another one. And eventually, I got married and I got into the nursing home business. So it's been very, very varied. So I got into the nursing home business, and that was kind of thrilling. But while I was there, I decided I wanted to own a ton of nursing homes. And fortunately, I was very blessed. I had bankers that really liked me. Anything I wanted, I got all the money I needed. I had a lawyer that knew the right people, and it just began to prosper. And then one day I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I felt this pressure around my head. And I felt this pressure like someone had a clamp. Really what happened was, I don't know what was happening, except I could have had an aneurysm.
Right.
My secretary, who was slightly spiritual, put her hands around my head. She said she saw a bulge around my vein. And at that time, she said, "Oh my God, your mother's deceased. She's coming into my body." And she held me in a clamp for about 30 minutes because I looked at my watch because I was impatient. And finally, I went to a sleep and came out. And then I was told I had a choice: become a multimillionaire in the nursing home business or to become very spiritual. The words out of my mouth were spiritual. I said, "Who said that one?"
Right.
Wait a minute, I want to be a multimillionaire. What is this stuff? In the meantime, I worked with a group of lawyers, and we were buying and selling companies. I had a nursing home business, delis, ice cream store, health bar business. I was in all kinds of businesses. Didn't know a gosh darn thing about it, just would go in, plunge in. I'd learn really quick, and they would turn out to be really successful. And then I would run into bankers, well, bankroll you, whatever you want, and so on and so forth. And then Spirit came to me and said, "You're going to move to the West Coast." I go, "No, I'm not." "You go to the West Coast." "No, I'm not." And I don't like California. Pardon me, any Californians. But that just, my family lives there, and I just didn't like the energy. And I was told, "I don't care if you move from Boston, where I was living, Miami, Florida, to Detroit, Michigan, to Cleveland, Ohio, and back to Boston. You're going to the West Coast." "No, I'm not." Well, here I am in Seattle, in the West Coast. So don't argue.
Right.
You go, what the dickens am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. And all of a sudden, I did go back to college, University of New Hampshire, and got a dual bachelor's, which was in human services and gerontology, which studied the elderly masters, and then doctorates, in alternative healing and psych. So I come out here, and all of a sudden, someone says, "You have a master's in gerontology for the elderly." "Yep." "Well, US West Telephone Company wants someone to talk about caller ID for the elderly, and we would like you to talk before the Washington State Senate." And I go, "Okay, boy, maybe I can get a job. They're going to be really impressed." So I did that, and I had senators come up shaking my hand, thanking me and everything. And US West said, "You're too overqualified. We'll take you to lunch." Wow, that was really great. All the wind went out of my sails. So what am I going to do now? So sitting around thinking, and someone who had heard me speak said, City University in Bellevue, Washington, we need a professor. So I ended up teaching marketing, economics, business communications, and just crazy. And I taught remedial English. And by the way, remember dangling participles and all that stuff?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I was challenged. But I went, okay, I have to relearn all the English syntax. And my sister was very good at it. So I called her up. She said, "I don't remember that stuff. Good luck." "Thank you very much." So I learned it and started teaching and did that for several years. Then they asked me to get my doctorates in education. Well, that's called publish or perish,
Right.
And,
Right.
I didn't want to get into that stuff. So as things progressed, I was walking around and I saw this metaphysical shop. And at that point, I was really angry with Spirit because things were not working out as I wanted to. So I gave up my path, and I walked into a metaphysical shop, and they said, "Oh, we need an intuitive." Okay. And then I heard this voice, Michael, it's time to start teaching. No. And so I sat there and I said, okay. So they hired me, and people were coming in. Will you teach me? Will you teach me? No, no, no. So finally, the owner of the shop said, look, Michael, we've got about 150 people want to learn from you. Okay. So I made a deal, and I was teaching 5 nights a week, 30 in each class.
Wow.
And, okay, everybody, thank you very much. This is 3 months long, and the end of 3 months, it's over. Okay. After 2 months, they said, Michael, we're having dreams. What kind of dreams are you having? And the dreams you're having is, you're going to teach us for 3 years. No, this is 3 months. Well, 3 years later, I concluded and had a new group come in, but I had one group that bugged me for a long time. We want to learn more. And I said, no, no, no. And after a while, I said, okay, I acquiesced. And so they've been with me for over 25 years by their choice. And I will tell you that they've learned new things every week. We've only repeated 3 classes. And then along the way, my original goal had always been to be a master healer.
Uh-huh.
And I had a teacher back in Boston who taught spirituality, and she said, Michael, you're great, wonderful things. All answers lie within. Sure, right. Thank you. Goodbye. So, and the fulfilling prophecy began to take place. Anyway, along the way, I became a hypnotherapist, certified professional hypnotherapist, which, you get a degree in.
Yeah.
And those things began to grow. And then there's something called thought field therapy, Dr. Roger Callahan, Reiki, all those different modes. And as it began to grow, I decided, my wife at the time said, why don't you become a minister? I became a minister. All of a sudden, I look back, in 9 years, I did over 1,000 weddings. Now, if you're going to ask me how that happened, I don't know. All I know, my phone would ring. I have people say, we looked in the yellow pages and meditated, and who should we call? And your name came up, and there was your name in the yellow pages. Okay. So that's how it transpired, and it kept going. And then back in 2007, Spirit came to me and said, look, your business is going to get slow, and there's going to be a huge recession. I said, okay. And we're suggesting you become a certified professional guardian. Well, what is that? In the state of Washington, you have to go to University of Washington to get qualified. You take a course for 6 months. You do 40 pages of homework a week. That's no exaggeration.
Wow.
And after I got that designation, then you have an exam. You have to be fingerprinted by the FBI, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I go, well, how am I going to get business? I don't know anybody. The phone starts to ring. We need a guardian. We need this. We need that. So as things began to grow, it really helped me over the period, and how things changed. Everything's just amazing. When you're on your path and you're doing the right thing, I would get a call from the head of Adult Protective Services. And then the Assistant Attorney General would call me up. Where'd you get my name? We heard about you. And, I get a few referrals. But I will tell you that spiritual work is growing by leaps and bounds. And I will be withdrawing probably the end of this year. But I want to fill in a little story about that, because Spirit said, do that. And I go, okay, I'll do it. And what happened is, I had a client, and he went into cardiac arrest, and then they were putting him in life protection, and all kinds of different kinds of, I'm going to say, life enhancing intravenous and all that stuff. I'm searching for the word. Excuse me. But thank you. Anyway, as a certified professional guardian, you have complete control over death and life. Nobody has control but you, and all finances. So I talked to his soul, and I said, well, what would you like to do? He said, no, I'm not ready to go yet. I said, okay. So I told the doctors, we're going to wait till Monday. That's all there is. Well, the doctors were on my case, the social workers.
Right.
I have the final decision. We'll readdress this on Monday. Monday, he rallied and lived another year. So that's just an example of some of the things that I've encountered.
Cool. Wow.
What
a path.
Yeah, it really has. And then I have a very good friend that's a medium, and medium talk to people that cross over. And I'll give her a plug, may I? Her name is Alicia Killebrew, and we became very, very close friends. And there's a thing called twin souls, and it's when you incarnate at the same time and you have similar paths. So it's kind of crazy, but she was calling me, Michael, what are you doing today? Oh, I bought a maroon shirt and I bought some hummus. What'd you do? She said, I bought a maroon blouse and I bought hummus. That's life parallels. So it keeps going on. We've done this for years, and she's been on Hollywood Housewives as an intuitive and a medium. But my joke with her is, Lisa, do me a favor. We parallel each other. She said, yeah. She said, we win the darn lottery, so I get next time. So, but anyway, the reason I'm bringing her up is she decided I should have my Akashic records, read for me. And that's your life, all your past lives. And of course, what you're supposed to do in this lifetime. And Reverend June Gatlin is who read it for me. And she said, you're going to write a book, you're going to do this and this and this and this. And your mission and goal is to teach everybody that they can make a difference. They are the solution, and reconnect with God, the true source, to change the mass consciousness. I go, okay. Well, after all that,
just a tiny little order there.
Okay. I said, who the heck am I? I used a different adjective. And why? And I wouldn't listen to it for 3 months. I mean, what makes me different? Finally, Alicia convinced me to replay it. And she said I was going to write a book. I was going to do all these things. And I said, okay. And it began to come into fruition. All these things. Meanwhile, Patrick Snow, who is a book coach, well known, he's sold over 1 million books. You may know him. I meet him through another friend, and he said, you're coming to Hawaii. Oh, okay. I'm going to teach you how to write a book. I'm doing a workshop. Oh, okay. Then he puts me on Facebook and says, everybody, Dr. Michael Gross is writing a book. And I went, oh, sugar, different word.
Yes.
That's how it all began. And now it's expanding ever outward and outward. So that's kind of my path. And my path is I'm learning something new each and every day. So what I do is I teach people how to meditate, how to connect with a higher power. And just recently, I did what we call the manifestation prophecies. So the manifestation prophecy is a little different than the law of attraction. While the law of attraction uses all these different tools, maps, pictures, and so on and so forth, I suddenly recalled learning from the mystery schools. Are you familiar with that concept?
Yes.
So the mystery schools were ancient schools that taught spirituality, and remember what I was being taught. And the manifestation prophecy. So I did a beta test of 21 people, and they all knew me, and they were very condescending. And I said, it's an hour and a half for 8 weeks, and so they went along with me. After 4 weeks, they said, hey, we're having fun. After 8 weeks, they said, is it over yet? It's not over, is it? I said, yes, it's over. Well, I would tell you that their lives have changed, spouses are back together, children have changed, so on and so forth. And what I discovered was, my motto, you are unlimited. And by the way, if you will look in the mirror, whoever's on listening to this podcast, and if you go to sleep at night and you look in the mirror and say you are unlimited 3 times, you review those thoughts in your sleep 60 to 120 times.
Yeah.
And how they found this out was, in England, they did a test back in the 1950s, and they had electroencephalogram that measured brain waves. These were prisoners, and they put a thought into them, and they went to sleep and watched the brain waves on the graph, and it came up 60 to 120 times. You remember your mom said, never go to sleep when having a fight with your spouse.
Right. Right.
So there's a lot of truth to it.
Right.
Anyway.
Yes. The phrase that I learned as a child is, don't let the sun set on your anger.
That's beautiful. I never heard that before. Thank you for sharing that. Can I steal it?
Yeah, please do. It's an old saying. It was in my family. Don't let the sun set on your anger. And it didn't matter who you were fighting with, whether it was a sibling or your family members or a coworker or anybody else. You had to get over it by the time the sun set.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
The other part of my motto is, if you don't know where you're going, you can't get lost.
There you go.
So I've adopted that one into my life as well. And it's really, really exciting. So I'm really into empowering people, whether it's for business, entrepreneurship, or your personal life. And I've been working with so many people lately, and every experience we have is stored in our physical body.
Right.
And about 12 years ago, I called my group together. We had a huge group, and we did what we call cellular release. And what I do is I work with I call God the true source. The energy comes in, and you feel stuff leaving from your body. And just recently, I was working with a woman who has bone cancer. And as we began to work together, I call in spirit, I'm just a conduit for God's true source. I'm not special.
Right.
And she said, my God, Michael, I heard this voice say when I broke up with my boyfriend 8 years ago, what's the use of living? 2 years after that, she came down with cancer.
Right.
So, thoughts are things like
thoughts are things.
we got to be pretty careful.
Well, just look around. You're sitting on a couch. Somebody had to think of that, right?
That's right.
They had to have a thought. Even the first couch, even the first sofa that came into being, somebody had to think about it and bring it into being. And I tell people all the time, thoughts are so powerful because everything around you, if you look at everything around you, once upon a time, that was a thought. And thought is creation. You just don't realize how powerful thoughts can be in your body. To have thoughts like, oh yeah, it's not worth living anymore. Cancel that.
Absolutely.
Because your body will go, oh, okay, well, we kind of want to live. So, because the body does want to live.
Exactly.
The body's, whole purpose is to keep going. So that's where I think actually cancer and slow-moving diseases come from.
You're right.
Is the body is going, I'm trying to resist this. You said that, but are you sure? Let's back that up, shall we?
Well, what people, one of the things Spirit was I share with everybody, what you think you create, and what you create you experience. And looking into the gift that I've been given to look into a person's body, and I can see the cells or whatever, those negative cells, we'll call them, are fighting for survival. Yes. And your body's going, hey, we're fighting, we're going to win this war. And each one of us has to help by being very positive. And all the research I've done over the last 300 years, I'm not that old, but I'm getting close. All illnesses start with an emotion.
Yes.
And then it causes the body to be at ease, which has caused the body to be diseased. People need to understand that.
Yes. Yes. And how helpful it is to have more positive thinking, to have, and it really, I'm not talking about, like just cheerleading, but sincere positive thoughts that are complementary, and I mean that in both spellings, to the body, that it works miracles in the body because it's just permeating you and making it happen.
You're absolutely right. I'm going to give a plug, but I wrote the book, The Spiritual Primer, The 12 Transformational Laws. And in the book, my niece, I didn't mention it with my niece. I want to tell you a quick story because there's something very powerful behind this. And so my sister called up and said, Michael, Lisa's her name, does she have breast cancer? And I go, yeah. Well, I said, well, Lisa, work with me. So she calls me up and she said, hi, Uncle Michael. I have breast cancer. This is too much information, but I'm a 42 double D. And I have a tumor in one of my breasts the size of a football. I went, oh my goodness.
Wow.
So, and then the other breast she said was precancerous. So I worked with her, I think for about 4 or 5 different weeks and got rid of a lot of emotional, whatever the cause was. And finally I said to her, look, she only had two chemo treatments and it was still there. And I said, we have the right, if we petition God, the true source, to take on a new mission and goal. Now, you see, when our missions and goals are over, it's like you can go on vacation. That's what I call birthing out of your body, being on vacation. The only thing you will miss, and I guarantee you, will be lobster, shrimp, prime rib. So, other than that, you won't miss anything. So she said yes. And so I talked to the true source, and the true source agreed with her soul to take on a new mission and goal. No exaggeration. Next morning, she called me up. She said the lump is gone and disappeared. Well, her father-in-law is a doctor, and she was seeing an oncologist. They said, oh, well, the chemo must have gotten rid of this on the second treatment. Right.
Right.
So she said, Uncle Michael, the doctor said there could be a little seed. I said, oh, Lisa, don't believe this. You'll cause this problem. Well, they want to do some surgery, and she said, I want to have a breast reduction. So Lisa, I can't tell you what to do, but I'm telling you, I would advise you not. You're going to live to 96, 98 years old. Well, she goes in. They couldn't find one dead cancer cell. They couldn't find trace of anything. But the doctor made $100,000 on the operation.
Of course.
But
Yeah.
some operations are necessary. I would say that, but it's just incredible. But you have the right to ask for a new mission and goal. The other thing you can do is petition the God of the true source to say, I want to hang out for another 10 or 20 or 15 years, whatever it is, and it can be granted to you. So that's something we have a very, very powerful. We have to realize that.
Yes.
And what
we have the right to ask.
You're correct. And I want everybody to understand that, the Old Testament said we're made in the image of God, right? So I believe that we are an aspect of the true source. We are.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, my interpretation of true source is unconditional, loving, allowing, and non-judgmentalness. So somebody asked me, well, what happens when you screw up? I said, well, we have the law of karma. Well, how'd that come about? We asked for it because we wanted to walk the straight and narrow path. But my explanation is, they said, well, when you mess up, what happens? Well, this is my explanation. True source goes, oh, Michael screwed up. Isn't that great? He learned a new lesson. That's very empowering. But really, that's what it's all about.
Yes.
It becomes very empowering.
Yes.
And you are acting as an instrument of the true source to bring entrepreneurs together, to help them achieve their dreams, to open up the door so that they can make a difference. And that's what you're doing. So I thank you.
Yes. And as far as I'm concerned, being able to create that energy that we call money is an aspect of source. It's just an energy that allows us to create more energy. Well, maybe not create it, but generate more energy. And I'm startled when people say, oh, I'm not going to charge for this amazing hands-on healing or this hypnotherapy or this biofield tuning, whatever it is that they do. I'm not going to charge much because it's so incredibly powerful. I can't charge for it, which sounds a little backwards to me. But the point that I want to make is that having stress about money, the energy that is called money, is not helping. It actually decreases the energy. It decreases the flow of what's going on. So if you're stressed about money and then you don't charge enough, then you're going contrary to what source is trying to give you.
You said that very, very eloquently. I went through a crisis at one time, and there was a woman who tried to commit suicide, and she came to see me, and she was fine. Then her husband called up, and she tried to commit suicide. She came to see me, and she put a bullet in the gun, and the gun misfired. So anyway, I got her all cleared up. And those days, I was charging like $60 an hour, and I had to have a deep clean at the dentist, and he wanted $1,200. And my crisis is, wait a minute, I saved a life for $60, and to get a deep cleaning for my teeth, $1,200. So I went through that kind of crisis. Do I have much time left? Do I have a couple of minutes?
You have a couple of minutes, and I still have one more surprise question
Please.
to give you.
Why don't you ask the question then?
Okay. What is the favorite part about your business?
That's a very good question. My favorite part of what I do is seeing people succeed and healed. Everything we do is called right action and correct exchange.
Right.
I do what I do out of love because I want to see them reach their potential like you are doing.
Yes.
And once they reach their potential, I feel like, oh, wow, I've accomplished my mission and goal because they become empowered. It's all about empowering people, which is exactly what you do.
Yes. Yes. That's the beauty of it.
Isn't that wonderful? And you, as you said, money is energy.
Yes,
And that's all it is. If I dig a ditch, the shovel makes the ditch, but it's my energy that makes the ditch. So I have to be compensated. And
right.
just like everything you pointed out, money is energy. Good point.
Money is
Thank you for
energy.
sharing that.
Yeah. I actually, I think it was, in fact, Joseph Campbell who said money is congealed energy,
I like that. I
because
like
that's what it is, right? It's bound into a form, but it's an energy exchange for the value that happens. And I hear people talk about all the time. It's like, oh, we need to get rid of money, and it was like you're still going to be bartering something. There's
yes,
still going to be an exchange. If you give me a cow, I'm still going to give you eggs. You know, it doesn't
exactly.
matter. It's money is just an agreed upon unit of exchange. That's all it is. If you get rid of money, there's still going to be an exchange.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I trade one cow for a dozen eggs or something like
Right,
that. Whatever it is.
right,
Sure.
right. And it just gets, for a lot of cultures, in the early days, the reason money was invented is because people were trading herds of cattle. They were trading cows, sheep, goats. It was like, oh, I'll give you 60 goats for this. And it's like, how do you don't carry those around in your pocket.
Little tough. Yeah.
It's a little tough.
Well put. Well, there was when I was teaching economics at City University, they wanted to find out the history of gold. And the first gold was printed by the Fugger family, Fugger. I had to look that up because that's a strange name, but it really was the first family, and that's how they claim it got started. Kind of interesting,
Wow.
way back in time. That was a medium of exchange that has never changed, even now.
Right, right. Well, thank you, Dr. Michael Gross. This has been an absolutely fabulous, fun episode of
Thank
the
you.
show. And I really hope that our viewers have gotten a lot out of this. There was so much wisdom in here and so much good stuff, that's really actionable. So how can people get a hold of you if they want more?
Well, I'd like to give everyone a 20-minute complimentary consultation,
Oh,
and
wonderful.
you can get a hold of me on drmichaelgross.com. Just put a request in there, or you can use Dr. Michael Gross numerical 1 at gmail.com.
Okay.
You can call me.
And that will also be in the end notes and in the description of the show.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you. And I want to thank all my viewers and listeners of The Sweet Sound of Success.
Thank you for supporting her, everyone. I appreciate this forum.
Thank you. What are your dreams for your business? You know what drives me crazy? Really smart business owners denying their talents because they've been taught it has to be hard, because they've been taught that they don't deserve their gifts, that they're not worth anything. They've been taught that their gender means they can't express their genius. I'm Sue Wilhite, and I want you to have access to your genius. I want you to go out and rock the world with your genius. So I created the Call to Action Coaching Program. It's all about getting to the heart of you and what you've got to share with the world to make a profitable business that thrives and allows you to make a difference in the world. Click the link to sign up for the Call to Action coaching program today. Don't let your genius go unnoticed.